Welcome to the Job Fair, where we give job seekers and employers the space to tell their own stories and bring our listeners along for the ride. We're your hosts, Doug and Shauna. Let's dive into it. Welcome back, everyone, to the Job Fair Season 2, Episode 4.
Welcome, everyone. Episode 4. Doug, how are we here already? And It's a guest episode.
Oh, man. Yeah, we are very excited to welcome Laissa to the set as our second guest for the season. Laissa, welcome.
Second guest, I'm very honored. Thank you, Doug and Shauna, for having me. I'm very excited to be here today.
You're second guest, but you're number one always. Keep that in mind. All right.
Yes.
I'm excited to have you here. Excited to learn more about your story, your career journey, and what you got coming up next. We know you're a mover and shaker, so we want you to lay it all out for us and our listeners. All right. Before we do that, Shauna, please lead us off with our opening ritual.
It's always my cue. As a reminder to guests, as well as our guest, Laissa, today, we like to have a little fun before we dig into the nitty-gritty of each episode. And that is a game we like to play called Agree to Disagree. Super simple. Each one of us will ask a question. All of us respond with either strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree, with a very brief reason why. All right. If you're all ready, prepped, I can kick this off for us. All right. So this one's holidays are coming up. So the question here today is regifting ethical?
All right. So I don't know how many people are going to like my response, but I personally think it depends what the gift is. If it's a super sentimental gift, the person spent a lot of money and time and effort to think through the gift for you. If there's a possibility they can find out that you regifted the gift, definitely don't do it. Don't take the chance. But I do think if it falls under the other categories of not being that expensive and also a generic gift, I think it's fine. I think it's okay.
Okay.
And I disagree. Not strongly, but I disagree. All right. What is a gift? A gift is an expression. It's a sacrifice that one makes to express gratefulness or gratitude or compassion for somebody. So how is it that you can receive that Amazon gift card and then throw it back at somebody, even if you meant, like, you have to go and do the deed and capture that expression and make that purchase yourself. That's just how I see what the true essence of a gift is. So I disagree.
But we're not talking Amazon gift card. We're talking tea strainer with 12 tea bags. So you're telling me that every gift you get, a pair of socks, I don't know, a scarf, a beanie, whatever, coffee, that you keep it and use it and you don't give it away, throw it away. You're saying you keep it all because someone went to that effort.
Yeah. Even if it's sitting on my shelf collecting dust.
Oh man, I'm going to find a gift this year. I cannot wait. I'm going to get a gift and I'm going to see it used or I'm going to see it on the background of this podcast.
I'm wearing a gift from you, Shauna, by the way, listeners. Job Fair swag. This is a gift from Shauna. So yeah. But anywho, yeah, I disagree. Take it away, Shauna.
I'm in the Laissa camp here. I agree with this one. I think it honestly depends on what the gift is. If it's sentimental, there's no way I think I would ever give something like that away. But we're talking about the extra pair of socks or a book that I already have or something that I know that I won't do something with, but maybe somebody else would appreciate. Then I would definitely regift that as well. Because otherwise, if I throw it away, it just sits there in the dust, give it to somebody who's using it, right? Let's get rid of that.
Just upcycle
Agree.
Just upcycle it.
I feel like waste is not ethical.
Yeah, wait till I get you those dog biscuits for a dog you don't have. And I'm going to be like, what did you do with them, Doug? Did you give it to someone who has a dog?
All right.
Okay.
I'm next up. Self-driving cars will eventually become the norm.
So I really hope not. So I'm going to go with disagree. I get the appeal of a Tesla. And as somebody who hates parallel parking, it is a dream to have a car that does it for me, but I just don't have enough faith to put that in a car right now. Or I don't know if ever. Every time I'm even in an Uber these days, I'm having a mini heart attack. So I really hope that it's not the future for the sake of everybody and the safety of everybody.
Okay, if you would have asked me this 2 weeks ago, I probably would have said that I disagree. I'm leaning toward agree. At an offsite in San Francisco, Waymos are very popular there. It's my first time in a Waymo. It was so convenient, and not having to talk to anybody, just get in the car, have it take you there. And it did some pretty good maneuvers. I was impressed. However, there's all these stories about how people have gotten locked in them, or because someone will stand in front of it and the car won't move, so you're stuck and you don't want to get out. And sometimes it takes bad roads to some places. So I think there still needs to be a lot of work, but I do think that it will become the norm. And if it does, I don't know if I'd hate on that.
Nice. Yeah, I strongly agree, Shauna. I just think that there's too much investment on Tesla's end, on Waymo's end, toward making this a reality. I have been in a Tesla before that was the assisted driving where you don't have to hold the steering wheel. I was scared at first, but it worked out. And yeah, I think that I see this becoming a thing in the future. And I think it will either be an equal amount of actual drivers versus self-driving cars on the road, or it might even exceed real drivers at some point. So yeah, I strongly agree.
All right.
Okay. Demand for alcohol is going to go down in the generations to come.
Interesting. I've never thought about this. I'm just going to go with disagree, but citing that I just don't have, I don't know. I've never thought about it, never did any research on if Gen Z drinks less than us. Passing the buck.
Pass the buck to me. I agree with this statement. Not strongly, though, because I feel alcohol holds such a big space in social gatherings and settings and just norms. I can see with the emergence of psychedelics now and states legalizing marijuana, I could see Gen Z and beyond wanting to try something different as an escape.
I'm in Doug's camp here for sure. I agree, but not too strongly, because I do agree that it's always going to be some form of a central part of social dynamics. But I do think with the rise in like mocktails and zero proof alcohol, I'm seeing a lot more of it being featured in all the restaurants that I go to. And in New York City, they're starting to open a couple zero proof bars, and people are using that as a third space and opting for that over regular bars. So I can see at least the rise of the no drinking culture emerge a lot more than I would say in previous generations.
I guess now I realize it's because I don't go out. Seeing a mocktail on a menu or bars is not, I haven't seen that. Yeah, like, now I understand why. What a great agree to disagree. Like you said, thanks for playing along. Really excited now to jump into the meat of this episode, focusing on you. Excited to learn more about you, hearing your story. So why don't you kick this off for us and get us rolling? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey and how you came to where you are today.
Yeah, of course. So I guess a bit about me. I would say that there's the on paper version and the off paper version. On paper, I am a product operations manager, and I have taken more of a product agnostic approach in my career. I've worked on a lot of projects across different sectors, from big tech to nonprofits, and that's really allowed me to be very agile in my product approach. But I would say the off paper definition, and the one that I align with more these days, is as a like product inclusion strategist. I've been very fortunate in the past year to be able to engage in pro bono projects as well as some consulting projects in this space to really flex that passion of mine. And when I say product inclusion, it's more bringing as many voices into the product development process. And this is something I've always used as my North Star, but It's something that I couldn't necessarily flex throughout my career, especially in different roles. So I'm very excited to center that a lot more these days. A bit about me, I'm Haitian, and I jumped into tech in the first place because I didn't really see a lot of me reflected in the technology I used. Namely, my language is mostly not represented. So that's always been something that I've wanted to change at some point, especially as I got more mature in my career. So I'm excited to start turning a corner of sorts to start to like really stick to what got me into tech in the first place.
That's an impressive ride right there. I personally, as a Brooklyn resident, it's inspiring to see somebody take it from Flatbush, Sac Passe to big tech. That's straight like that. That's how you did it. Love that. So for listeners and others who might not be as familiar with what product inclusion is, you touched on that. Could you just dig a little deeper? What exactly do you define as product inclusion?
Yeah, product inclusion is, as I mentioned earlier, bringing as many voices into the product development process. So when we think of, let's say, WhatsApp, for example, is making sure that it's touching as many emerging markets as it is dominating markets. It's also making sure that the features reflect the needs of a user. So making sure it's available in as many languages as possible, making sure that there are accessibility features reflected. So it's really a multi-pronged process that really tries to reflect people's different identities, but it's truly making sure that the products that you have can serve as many people as possible. That can start from as early as user testing with products and making sure that you are bringing in outside organizations so they can speak on what a product can do better in order to be better for a community that they're serving, or it can happen as late in the process as post-launch and recognizing that there's not as much user adoption in a specific community as you would have hoped, and trying to dig deeper and figure out why.
Got it.
I'm also curious. So this space that you're focusing on feels relatively new, I would say, in the last year or a couple years. And I love it. But I'm curious, as someone who was looking in the job market or interviewing, looking through job roles, what roles do you look for? Are there product inclusion specific titled roles, or how do you go through figuring that out amongst what you're interested in?
Yeah, there are a lot of product inclusion or product equity specific roles, or that's the title you would look up. But if I'm being honest, it was a lot more prevalent in 2020 for reasons I think we all know why, but it's a lot less prevalent now. So there are still teams, especially at all the major companies, all the main companies, they all have a product inclusion or product equity team, but there's not a lot of live job postings in this space. And that's something that I quickly learned as I tried to do a deeper pivot. For me now, after talking to a few product equity specialists that are working in big tech, is also recognizing that a lot of the advice that I was getting was just like, I would rather you work within product as a whole and then partner with product equity like professionals like within the higher org, because you have a lot more influence on the product development process than to try to join a product equity team. So I really took that advice to heart, and in place of trying to look for product equity roles where there are none, I just try to make sure that I'm applying to just general product management roles or product operations roles, but I'm intentional about the product behind it. So I would much rather pivot towards a company like PayPal or something where you know that it actually has the ability to build in features that can have an inclusive lens applied to it. So that's what I've been doing.
Just to wrap up the product inclusion talk, as far as staying abreast and staying savvy on the landscape and how things are evolving and changing, how do you go about doing that, or how have you gone about doing that in, say, the last year?
I would say that what I've done to really try to escape the rat race of just applying and that cycle was just reaching out to people on LinkedIn that have the title that I aspire to have. I was able to get some informationals with a lot of people and really understand that even my dream title is not all it's cracked up to be. So it demystified that a bit for me. But in the process, I was able to meet people who consider themselves like independent practitioners or thought leaders in the space and want to do projects outside of their 9 to 5. And we're looking for collaborators in that sense. So that was how I was able to get some consulting projects under my belt and be able to get some real experience within this realm and establish myself more as a subject matter expert within product inclusion. It did lead me to some projects that I didn't necessarily have a lot of domain expertise, but I'm a quick study. I even got into some climate finance projects. Shout out to Doug.
Sustainability. Sustainability in the house.
So I was able to definitely learn more about the sustainability space, which is actually a lot more tied into product inclusion than I thought. So I was able to build a portfolio aside from regular job hunting that helped me stay abreast with what was going on in the industry that I want to be in.
Dope. Yeah, shout out to we're dropping the word portfolio, which is what Doug and I pitch all the time. So Laissa, it definitely sounds like you've had a lot of experience and you've taken a lot of risk and time to gain experience toward your profession, whether that's in internships or just taking side hustles or an education. Through all your weaves and your turns, clearly not a straight path. What would you say is your most defining chapters of everything that's led you to here?
As much as I can talk about my time in big tech, I really can't just erase from the fact that it is a huge defining chapter for me, because it really allowed me to get experience in the sense of a huge product that scales. And I don't take that experience lightly. And in that role, I was able to work horizontally across different product domains. So I think it allowed me to be a lot more agile and not necessarily think about having one product domain define what I do, because it's allowed me to create more of a generalist approach, not just my career within products, but even how I brand myself. I'm able to twist it to whatever company that I am applying for, and I'm not scared for that challenge. I have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's not necessarily the most linear thing, and I know reading my resume, it doesn't sound like it has a cohesive story, but I can thread a line through it, through the structure that I create, the processes that I create, and I can unify that story into one cohesive thing.
That's a big gem right
there. Yeah.
Threading that line through all of those seemingly disconnected experiences and tying it together for your narrative. Bingo. I love that. And that's what we aim to do here at the job fair, for real. Yeah. Cool. Super cool. All right. I want to hear some insights from you on interviewing now. I know you've been through a lot of it in your career so far. Maybe you got some recent stories, some bad dates. Tell me how it's been looking on the scene right now as far as interviewing.
With interviewing, I feel like I've had such a mixed bag in general. My experience thus far in this specific market has been unlike any other time that I've been job hunting, because it feels the goalpost continues to move and it's hard to put a pulse on how things are going. I used to be able to have more of a sure feeling if I got to the last stage of, okay, this job is mine. And you can't really know that at this point, because I've been to too many final interviews that it takes you to a place where you feel like you can't feel sure of anything until you start the job, because you hear so many horror stories of offers being rescinded. So I think with interviewing, it's just been this gray space where I really don't know. I can never really know where I'm at or how I'm performing. I'm very happy to be done with that chapter. My heart goes out to anybody still doing it because the goalpost keeps on moving and it's really hard to tell if it's you, if it's the job, if it's the synergy. There's no exact science to it.
You touched upon it a little bit a couple minutes ago, but also I feel relates to what you just said here too. With product inclusion, and you're looking for a needle in a haystack role, and then also going through all these interview processes, what were you looking for in terms of company and work culture?
Yeah, with product inclusion, I really want to be intentional about the product, but that's something that I weed out the minute I'm looking for the company or I'm applying for it. I'm looking for a product that I know that at some point, if there is not a product equity team that sits at it, I can devise a plan to bring that in because it would make sense. So that's first and foremost for me, because otherwise I feel like it will be just another role where I'm in this limbo area where I'm not getting closer to being in product equity the way I plan. Then these days, I'm really leaning more on having a lot more flexibility. And that seems like needle in the haystack these days too, of wanting remote culture. I got too used to it and it aligns with where I'm at personally in life. I've also had great leaders who really emphasize work-life balance. So that's something that I look for when I'm speaking to a hiring manager. I got a little spoiled. So long as it has that, really in this market, beggars can't be choosers. So I can't have a long list. So that's it for me.
Laissa, could you tell me a bit about how you go about actually getting to the interviews? Like, how do you get your foot in the door and get in front of a hiring manager or recruiter?
Yeah. I feel like I've run through the gambit of different strategies. I feel I have reached out to folks who are directly at the company, tried to get an informational interview, but I think
AKA
they're
begging.
probably, yeah,
Hey, I want to learn more about.
yeah. And in hopes that that conversation leads to some form of a referral, I have been applying directly and using ChatGPT to try to tailor my resume. Each time I have learned a lot about what is working and what's not working. I was one of the people who felt like a Canva resume could really get you in the door. I thought I was gaming the system and trying to have the prettiest resume on the block. PSA to everyone, it doesn't because the ATS scanner can't read it. And that's something I learned 500 applications down the line.
Plain is better. Plain is always better.
What's an ATS scanner?
It's an applicant tracking system. So it's like the AI applicant tracking system. Yeah. So it's easy to get AI rejected if it can't read it. So that's why you always want to go with regular text over pictures or logos.
Shauna putting on that HR background hat.
Right? Yeah.
But the one thing that really stands out to me in what you said was the mix between using ChatGPT and hustling. I feel like you also hustled. And I think a lot of folks sometimes now rely on ChatGPT to do everything and are like, wait, why am I not getting anything? But you still put in the work. You were still networking, reaching out. So there was still a lot of hustle there. And so I think it's a great complement between how you use both. And I do think that's really necessary in this job market.
Oh, yeah. I agree because I feel like recruiters hate ChatGPT now. So you can't just copy and paste from ChatGPT at all. And I think having just done my MBA where I've leaned a lot on ChatGPT, leaned a lot on, yeah. And I was able to realize just how flawed it is. And it just really doesn't get the job done on its own.
Love it. You know what I really loved about that last piece there was how you just casually just slid in there. Yeah, and I just got my MBA. No big deal. I just got my MBA.
Drop the school.
To bring it home with the questions, I did want to just ask, with your considering your career experience and journey so far, Any advice that you would give to folks looking to follow a similar path?
As cliche as it might sound, definitely network.
Please don't say follow your dreams and work hard, please.
No, never that. It's work smart. There's a lot of people out there that really want to not focus on their 9 to 5, but their 5 to 9. And it's hard to find that sometimes. And so if you can really wave through the fake thought leaders on LinkedIn versus the ones who are actually putting out great content, being able to follow a lot of people who are in the space that I want to be in, I was able to read a lot of the pieces that they're putting out there. And a lot of it doesn't align with what they're doing for their 9 to 5 or how they get a living, but more so projects that they're trying to start up on the side. And I think that's a great way for you to get to know people, but also get your foot in the door, especially if you're trying to gain experience to pivot. I think that helped me definitely get some projects in, some people that I know I didn't necessarily work with in a 9 to 5 setting, but would still vouch for me because they're able to see my work in some capacity. And I was able to speak to experiences in the interview room that is not on my resume, which adds a little twist. So that's been
great advice. Thank you so much. Shauna, anything else?
No, I mean, such great insights, and I appreciate you sharing so much. And anyone who's listening can learn so much from you through the interview process, or if they're interested in the space. I think we bring it home, Doug.
Without further ado, Liz, thanks for checking in with us today on today's episode. We invite you all to check out our website, www.thejobfair.com. You can also check out our social channels. We're at The Job Fair on all socials, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, what have you. And yeah, on our website, we've got a box where you can shoot us a line, suggest or request topics, apply to be on the show, refer guests, anything in between. Just definitely tap in with us there, or just shoot us a DM on any of those other platforms as well.
Yep. And last but not least, Laissa, thank you so much for joining us today. Is there any place that folks can find you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, thank you both for having me again. My name's very simple, Laissa Duclos. It's on LinkedIn, LAISADUCLOS. If you want to reach out, co-create with me. I also want to focus on my 5 to 9 dreams, so definitely feel free to reach out.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think that wraps up episode 4 of season 2. Doug?
Cut. Till next time.
See
Thanks,
everyone
everyone.
next time.
Bye.
Thank you.